When the government fears the people, there's liberty. But when the people fear the government, there's tyranny. Look at the pictures that are being broadcast on cable news this morning and elsewhere of 15,000 troops in the nation's capital with regard to the inauguration of Joseph Biden, the biggest criminal ever to ascend to the presidency in the history of this country. We know that hundreds of millions of dollars was laundered through his son, Hunter Biden, into his account, into the family's coffers. We know that the government is totally broken down, that the deep state of both political parties in the executive branch does not represent the American people and is subverting the interests of the American people. The clowns, court jesters, and criminals on Capitol Hill, we saw them running around like complete lunatics, feathering their own nest for their own political purposes with regard to the impeachment of Donald Trump. And then, of course, there's the federal judges, unelected, unaccountable to the people, who threw the American people under the bus in the last election. And that includes the new Supreme Court justices chosen by Trump himself, Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh, and Neil Gorsuch. A total breakdown of government. The people feel helpless. The people feel that they're under attack. The people do not want violence, but the people want recourse. They want a remedy. And when you see the FBI doing press conferences saying that they're going to round everybody up and prosecute everybody, there were people at that Capitol event a week ago Wednesday who went peacefully, people who didn't come to create any trouble, but simply were protesting. These people feel as if now they're going to be prosecuted. In fact, I've been contacted by people who were simply at the event but didn't participate in anything at the Capitol, but they feel that they're going to be prosecuted. Couple that with the drumbeat that you see on Fox News, which fails to address the grievances of the people. Everybody goes on because they've been told to do that. And of course, there's sheep. There's sheep who are not thinkers. They're there to exploit, to get on TV, to make money, to profit. But there's no discussion of what caused the uprising. There's no discussion of the fact that the government, so-called government, no longer represents the American people. And that's what I wrote about in my book, It Takes a Revolution, Forget the Scandal Industry. That's why I wrote the book, because it was not geared to any election. It was geared to the state of affairs that we currently find ourselves in, which is worse than it was on July 4th, 1776, when we declared independence from the British Crown. As I've said before, King George III was not a socialist. King George III was not a communist. He was not a radical Muslim. He was not a member of the Jewish left. And I'm Jewish myself, so I can say that without being attacked. He was not a member of the radical black movement. He was not a radical gay, lesbian, or transgender. He was not someone out of the mainstream of what people consider to be, quote, normal, unquote. This is the problem today, is that this country's been taken over by these radical leftists. And the future was bleak enough when President Trump was president, because he wasn't in control of his own government. They worked against him. They destroyed him. He wanted to change things. They didn't want change because they love power, they love money, and they love the prestige of their jobs. But this morning, we even see reports that congressional representatives in the House of Representatives who gave tours to people prior to January 6th are potentially going to be prosecuted. It is a terror campaign by a government that wants to hold on to power, which has broken away from the American people, which represents only its own interests and itself. And it's being propped up by big tech, social media, which are run by ultra leftists and people who are part of these fringe leftist groups, these radical leftist groups, billionaires. And I can tell you this issue of censorship is nothing new. Let's go back several years, almost 10 years. Mark Zuckerberg, the head of Facebook, allowed a third Intifada page by the Palestinians to stay up, which said they were going to kill Jews who were in support of Israel. He let it stay up for 2 weeks. I sued Facebook at that time, and the courts took no action. They said, oh no, Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act presents any kind of cause of action. Well, I'm taking action this time. We're going to bring in a lawsuit at Freedom Watch to sue Amazon and Twitter and others over the Parler debacle. But this is something which we need to keep in mind, is that it's not just even a government which has broken away from the people, but it's industrialists. It's people who have the ability to further the evil ends of the government that are part of this. And that's exactly what happened in the years leading up to World War II in Nazi Germany. It was the industrialists. It was people in all walks of society that propped Hitler up and put him in power and allowed him to stay, resulting in destruction of Europe and the loss of 6 million lives in ovens and gas chambers. So you see, when Jefferson said, when the people fear the government, there's tyranny, he was talking the truth. And when Jefferson said that if the country becomes unethical, if it becomes corrupt, which he predicted it would as the natural manure of mankind, that someday the people would have to rise up again in another revolution and fight it out for the future of the vision of our founding fathers. Now, Jefferson didn't want to see violence, neither do I, and I don't advocate that. But no one is talking about the root cause of what happened at the Capitol a week ago Wednesday. It wasn't all Antifa infiltrators or QAnon infiltrators or anyone like that. There may have been a few, but it was mostly the people rising up who felt desperate, that they had no way out, that they had no recourse. And of course, government doesn't want to talk about that. And Fox News, which is dishonest and corrupt in its own right, doesn't want to talk about that. They're afraid like everybody else, and they're simply jingling the change. And that's why I want you to go out and read the Declaration of Independence again. When in the course of human events, the government no longer represents the people under the laws of nature and nature God have a right to alter and abolish that government and form a new government. That's what we need to do. But before we even get to that point, and we're going to have a Third Continental Congress this spring in Philadelphia, right across from Independence Hall, where we discuss how we do that peacefully and legally. We're going to have to bring about justice. We need ourselves to hold the guilty in government accountable. Citizens' grand juries, which Justice Scalia said, belong to the people, not to the three branches of government. We can indict, we can try, we can convict, we can sentence, and we even have the right for citizens' arrest, which I advocate to do in a legal and peaceful way. Read my book, Read My Lips, It Takes a Revolution. The time is short. You can see when you see 15,000 troops plus in the nation's capital, heavily armed, that the government is prepared to move against the people, and not just people that they consider to have committed crimes. This is a message for all of us. Keep your mouth shut, obey, continue to wear the chains of slavery by an oppressive government that does not represent the interests of the American people. We will peacefully and legally change that, but we must act quick. God is with us. It's been done before in world history, but if this country is to be saved and not go the way of ancient Rome, ancient Greece, and other civilizations that became corrupt and collapsed from within, we must act quickly. So go out and read my book. You can find it at Amazon.com, all major booksellers, at freedomwatchusa.org, and gear up to wage a peaceful and legal revolution quickly before all is lost. Thank you. God is with us. I'll be back Monday with another special podcast. Until then, listen to my weekly radio show at radioamerica.com, which you can find also at freedomwatchusa.org, Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. Thank you for listening to me.
I enroll so I can get covered and stay covered, even after I get back on my feet.
Whatever your reason for needing health insurance, Nevada HealthLink is here for you. Enroll November 1st through January 15th at nevadahealthlink.com.